Good day, everybody. Alex here, and today we're going to go over some tapping. You see, I really feel like a lot of the tapping tutorials that you can find on YouTube or in general tend to kind of not cover exactly how real tapping can get done. I mean, anybody can do the whole, or even the more kind of strange version of. But today I want to talk about some real tapping here. I mean, the stuff that when you really get into it, when you get a little bit more complex with it. Today we're going to be going mostly over chords and tapping combined and how that really can make a big difference. And how the tones that you get and the actual effects that you can get from tapping mainly do come from your decision to incorporate and use certain chords. One big problem that I kind of see a lot of the time is people are just trying to show you scales. All the time, everyone just wants to show you scales, and we'll talk about scales, and we'll talk about how you can go from here all the way up to here. But if you want to play a little bit more in the melodic sense, or even more so, just get a general idea for doing more advanced tapping techniques, this is the kind of stuff you want to get into. So let's go over one of my favorite tapping positions right now for chords. All right, my favorite one right here. This is just a standard jazz chord yet. The notes are going to be, by the way, I'm playing on a 7-string, so ignore this little buddy down here. Everything's in standard E tuning, so don't worry about getting anything fancy here or any of that type of stuff. So what you mainly want to do is, with this chord in particular, it's going to be take the middle finger right here, put them on the 3rd fret of the A string, put your pointer finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. Pause there for a second, that was strange. And then put your pinky and or index finger, I find it much more comfortable to use the pinky, on the 4th fret of the G string. So you get the. Now, when you're using something like this, you have to figure out what's the root of the note. All right, a lot of people don't. When they go over theory, you don't sometimes go over stuff of this sort, or it takes a long time of getting into it to be able to understand this stuff really well. But basically, I try to cut the guitar up into 2 different, in particular, scale notions, and they do switch into each other. But the bass notes will always start either on odds or evens. Well, in this particular chord, if you tuck away the 3, you'd still have the 3 on the A string, to be exact. You'd still have a chord there. So the best way to look at it is that you are in an even scale. So, with that being said, a really good way to move up the octaves and immediately get started is you can use around from here up is a good place to start your tapping. So what you could have here is from 12, this chord in particular goes well when you're going on the 12th note, 14th, 15th, then 17th, 19th, 20, and 21. So an easy way to do this, and this is going to be a multi-finger tapping technique, is something of the sort like this. We're going to go over this specific exercise today. The best way to be able to get an effect like that, and you have to understand, is that this chord formation itself is transferable and movable up the neck. Now, this gives you a really good base because no matter what happens, you're always going to have a reliable structure of you have 3 strings here being held down into a note, and you have 3 fingers right here that can be doing some tapping. Well, technically you have 5, but that's a little complex. Let's start something easy. Just 1 finger today. All right? So, first thing you want to make sure you're doing is, what I'm doing there in particular is we're doing slides from the 12 to the 14th note. And then do a pull off by just simply pushing off the string. So you're getting kind of that effect. Pull offs do exist in this way, and they're very important in this sense as well, because what you can really gain out of them is not just tapping, but you're getting really the fundamental idea of the chord in there, because the chord's going to always be your open note. All right, it's always when you're playing open, that's where the chord is. When you're tapping, you're over here. The difference is that when you're tapping, every time you do that pull off is when you get that second last note, which kind of in a way adds to the end of that tapping pattern. So basically the chord is simply there to give you new positions and new sounds instead of just, or you could have that chord in there and you go. But here's the thing. Let's just move this exact same chord, all right? Don't change any of the finger position. Just move the whole thing so that way the uppermost note, the second note, highest on the neck, and by, I guess, lowest on the neck, where you have the 2, move that up till you're at A7. Now you have this same chord just higher up, playing the same exact position, all right? So we're still talking 12 to the 21 range, going 12, 14, 15, 17, 19, 20, and 21. So that's where chords can really become a big part, and chords can switch up. You can use just about any chord and tap it. You just got to find where on the neck is that chord going to correlate into a tap. Every position is different. Every chord can be different too. So the fundamental theory of this is simply that the chord is going to be the base of your tapping, and then the tapping itself just has to be in the same exact octave as the chord that you're in. Sometimes you can lean out of it a little bit, sometimes you can lean in. That's the cool thing about music is, in a weird way, again, the word theory, not music fact, music theory. It's still, in a weird way, kind of interpretable, and that's what's really cool about it, is that you can make up what you think is best for what you're playing. Sometimes being out of key can make sense if you can find a way to make it make sense. But I digress. The important part about this is understanding that when you're really trying to get into it, it's simply just understanding the 2 fundamental ideas of that the chord and the tapping go together. They're in one and the same. Now, if you want to get into some more complex stuff of just the tapping itself, it's going to be, I've predominantly used these 2 fingers right here. It takes a little bit of time to get up to that. Sometimes I like to incorporate these 3 because you can do a lot more techniques. Say I want to strip away the 2 right here and just go full on with the 2 fingers right here, the 3 and the 4 on that chord. And what I'm doing in this little exercise here is we're going to be taking the ring finger and the pointer finger, and we're going to be tapping on the 14 of the G and on the 12 of the A. Now let's move it up to that position where we had at the 7. Remember the 7 being the lowest note, which we're not currently using. So your finger positions are going to be on the 8 of the A string and the 9 on the G. Same exact pattern with these 2 fingers. Now watch what happens when you just move it down. So really, honestly, you have to kind of sometimes, especially in tapping, look at the 2 hands themselves as separate things. Your left hand is always directing your right hand if you're playing a right-handed guitar, vice versa if you're playing left-handed, which is that the chord tells you where to tap, not any other way around. When you're tapping, the chord is what's going to tell you where to tap, because depending on the chord you're using depends on what scale you're using. So always look at it as your right hand's being led by your left hand if you're playing right-handed guitar. At the same time, a really important thing with tapping is understanding that there's a lot of different levels of it, from the entry-level Metallica thing of going to more advanced tapping using multiple techniques. Something like Tosin Abasi constantly is using some pretty advanced tapping techniques. My homework for you today would say that what you want to do is get used to holding down these chords and understanding that when you want to tap and really want to make it, first thing you need to do is put a couple chords together in your head. All right, this goes for songwriting and building these type of riffs in general with tapping. Is get a progression of chords in your head. First, like, let's say a mock example would be just something like something as simple as that. What you want to do is you want to play that a bunch of times till you get your exact caught myself in the moment there. When you get yourself in that exact kind of, you just got to get the feel of it. Make sure you have that part down perfectly. Secondly, what you want to do is start working on your right hand's half of the job, which is going to be the tapping aspect of it. So you want to figure out the chord progression, then figure out where to tap from that chord progression. And that will allow you to be able to start building up on things. The way you want to tap and what you want to tap, that's up to you. How many fingers you want to use, that's up to you. But that's the simple structure of building tapping riffs in general. Hope you found this helpful. If you do, leave a like or a comment telling me what you would like to see next. And yeah, have a good day.